everyone. After the race in Aeropolis, Drift Masters, there was some questions regarding the judging. And here, this is not for normal fans, because normally we are having like a couple of seconds to explain our decision during the race. But here we will go a little bit more in depth and speak about the details and what was going on in judging booth. Let's go directly for the runs which were the most talked about. The first was the decision between Kevin Pesour and Conor Falvi. In that battle, Kevin opted to chase first. From 2025, there is a rule that the higher qualifier is able to choose if he would like to lead or chase first. So Kevin just decided to chase first, and Conor Falvi needed to lead first. Everything went pretty smooth. It was a pretty good run. Conor was fulfilling the zones. This is his job to do. And Kevin was following. He was cutting a little bit here and there, but he was doing that for really good proximity. So we put our notes down. However, then we saw that the small contact at the finish line was causing big trouble for Conor, as he was not able to get into the start line. Every time when there is contact, we need to determine who is to blame. That is the first thing what is happening when there is any type of contact on the track. So we need to find out who is to blame for that contact, and the other person is getting 10 minutes for repair. That's the rule. That's like very important stuff what we are doing. So as soon as we will see the contact, even though the cars are not stopping and they're continuing on in their driving, we need to determine who is to blame for that contact. However, I would start a little bit earlier than with the contact itself, because here is also very important to say what was said during the briefing. Leader can't reduce angle prior crossing of the finish line, because during the practice and also qualification, some of the drivers were shallowing the angle just before the finish line, and we said that there should not be any reducing the angle before the finish line. The reason behind that was that coming from outer zone 6 to our outer zone 7, people were reducing the angle, trying to slightly run away, and it was killing the great flow of the battle itself. So we put in this rule to make the battles a little bit more entertaining and a little bit more fair for the chaser. Normally, the rules are quite a lot protecting the chaser by restricting the leader, that we are having really good battles. There was also other thing which was said on the briefing, that leader should reduce slowly of the angle after the finish line and keep on right. So once the car is going through the finish line, it should start reducing the angle, start to reduce the speed a little bit. That was also said on the briefing, that if somebody will rapidly slow down behind the finish line, it will be a big problem. Then for the chaser, it was said that chaser needs to go left after the finish line to avoid the contact with the leader. So that was said on the briefing, that those were the rules, and this is something what we've been discussing, because even though we need to say who is to blame for the contact, it is never the cause, that almost never the cause, that both drivers would be completely without any mistake. So normally it is some kind of combined mistake between both drivers, but we need to decide who is more to blame for that contact. And that's how we started the discussion. So we started to discuss, and we used the Wally system to check if there was any deceleration. When the angle was reduced, how the angle was reduced, and why the angle was reduced. Why the angle was reduced was mainly visible from the live stream, when we've been watching, that there was a contact with the wall before contact with the other driver. So leader Conor Falvi was hitting the wall before there was a contact between both drivers. And we needed to check this situation, and we did. We looked into the Wally system. You can see that the leader is hitting the wall. There is very tiny reducement of the speed, but there is some reducement of the angle. And now the discussion was mainly about if the reducement of the angle was enough to allow the chaser for the contact. And this is something which we did not agree, all three of us. And I was for blame for Kevin Pesour because of his position as a chaser. He was rear wheel to rear wheel, which is incorrect position for the chaser. The correct position needs to be like further back, so his door should be basically to the rear wheel, or even like front part of the door, definitely not the rear wheel. However, the other two judges were saying that there was contact with the wall and reducement of the angle, and if there would not be that contact with the wall and reducement of the angle, there would not be any contact. Also, they were saying that as a chaser, your job is to keep close. The proximity is the king, and they wanted to see close battles. From my perspective, I saw that there was not enough space between them. Basically nowhere to go for Conor Falvi, as he was having one wall on the one side and wheel-to-wheel contact on the other, and there was no space in between them. So that said, the discussion cannot progress further. The race is going on, and we needed to decide. So we took the vote, and the vote was 1 for mistake of Kevin Pesour, 2 for mistake of Conor Falvi, and that's why it was put it as a mistake of Conor Falvi. Then I got the question from team of Conor why my judgment was towards Kevin Pesour, even though I was against the mistake was on Conor. And the reason is that rules were not allowing me to, because there was no second run. If I would call the call that it was mistake of Kevin Pesour, definitely it is not mistake which would put Kevin out of the competition. It would just say that Conor Falvi is having 10 minutes to repair the car and come back for second run. So there would be still second run to determine and to judge from. So I had no possibility to put the winner. And as Conor was having DNS, then for me, for the second run, then unfortunately, based on the rules, I needed also to put Kevin Pesour as the winner of that run, because it was determined by majority of the judges that the mistake was on Conor's side, and then I needed to just accept that. I understand the point of view of Mateusz and Vernon, that they wanted to protect the chaser, that we are still having nice and close battles, even though I was not agreeing with them at the point. I understand it, and this is sometimes very important with the judging rules. You don't need to every time agree with the judgment of the judges. You just need to understand why it was happening and what should you do otherwise that it would not happen again. So that was the first battle I would like to talk about. And then we are getting to run number 2. Run or battle or battles number 2. And that is Conor Shanahan against Dwayne McKver. So again, I will start with something what was said during the briefing. You can still see part of the briefing. You can see what is written. Now, this year, we're trying to be as clear as we can. So we put it, the briefing on website. So you're free to go there, see it, watch it, and maybe understand a little bit better how we are judging. On the briefing was said a couple of things. Not everything can be covered in the written form, so a lot of it is also covered just in the verbal form. One of those things where I was saying is over rotation just before the transitions, and this is something what we also saw during the practice. That people were over rotating a little bit before the transition itself, and then not slowing down at all, or just a tiny bit slowing down in orange zones. From our perspective, that was giving to the lead driver unfair advantage, because he was scrubbing speed in place where the chaser was not expecting that, and we were taking it like unfair advantage from the leader, because he slowed down in place where he should not, because increasing the angle is in many cases slowing down, and then not slowing down in place where it was anticipated by the chaser. So we were telling them that coming from outer zone 3, you should stay in the same angle, do the transition, and then decelerate by handbrake, left wheel brake, or increasing the angle. That's up to the driver, what suits his style. That said, we can go a little bit further. In Ferropolis, the initiation is not easy at all. Everybody knows that, drivers knows it, we know it, and we try to set it up as much fair as it was possible for the conditions. We are in tight space, and we need to set up the initiation in a way that it is doable again and again and again in the same way, and that chaser is able to anticipate what will be happening in front of him. The first race of this year where there is no orange zone or red zone of deceleration on initiation. That's what we want to see. We want to see no deceleration on that start of the judging zone. Also, we added there guidelines. There were 2 marked lines just after the start of the scoring zone. Start of the scoring zone is not initiation. The initiation needs to happen before that. And the guidelines are there to position the lead driver exactly where it needs to be, that the chaser can be focused and go close from the beginning, and that we are having tight battles. And during the briefing, we also put an emphasis that it will be important to be close from the beginning, because that is the hardest part of the track, to be close as a chaser. We put it some rules towards being close in that spot. First of the rules were that you should not be initiating side by side, because leader needs some space to make the initiation without slowing down is a pretty difficult thing to do. We wanted to that the leader is having enough space to do proper initiation and be able to go from the beginning steady. So we said from the first that we would like to have single file initiation. However, the voice from the drivers were telling us that they don't like it. They want to be close from the beginning. However, with single file is almost impossible to do. We agreed with that, and we allowed to have slight side by side. That means that your front bumper as a chaser can be on the level of rear wheel. Another thing what we were discussing on the briefing was position of the chaser and cutting the line on the initiation. We did not want it to see cutting the line if the leader is on correct position. So if the leader was having front left wheel in between those guidelines, if the wheel is still touching the guidelines, it is still acceptable. So if the leader is there, you as a chaser should not be cutting, and you definitely should not put wheel off on the start of the scoring zone. That was very crucial for the battle between Connor Shanahan and Dwayne McKver. They started in the normal way, how it would be before 2025. So Connor Shanahan, as higher qualifier, was leading first. Dwayne McKver was chasing. One more thing what is needed to say, that I will be now speaking about mistakes, and all drivers were from top 32 were really good. So there are very tiny mistakes, very small mistakes, but we need to look into them, and we knew when we're coming to Ferropolis that we will need to be strict. So Connor lead. He had small bubbles here and there. Otherwise, it was very solid lead. He was fulfilling the zones as it was needed. He was deep in the zones. He was perfect on the guidelines. He was doing transitions as we were expecting. So he got pretty high score. We can put maximum 10 points for the lead and 9 points for the chase. So I checked my notes, and it is 9 points for Connor Shanahan for his lead, and Dwayne McKver 8- for his chase. As in his chase, side-by-side initiation, this is something what we've been talking about. Like, he was not completely side-by-side, but his front bumper was on the it was just too much in the front, and he was cutting also during the initiation. He basically put wheel off in the place where were the guidelines, so that is showing that there was quite some serious dive. Then also there was quite big cut in outer zone 4. However, the proximity was really good, so it was like, yes, there was needed to be deduction, but it was not huge. Then we are having the second run, where Dwayne was leading and Connor was chasing. So for Dwayne, he had very slight cut of the line on the guidelines. He was not fulfilling it that good as his opponent. And he was leaving the outer zone 1 a little bit earlier than we were looking for. And also, he had over-rotation at the end of outer zone 4. And that is very important. As we were speaking about it just before, there was thing about that in the briefing. And we need to act on that if it was said on the briefing. So if there is over-rotation, then there is counted slowing down with it, and that is affecting the chaser throughout the transition. That is also happening. Connor was close at outer zone 4. When there was that over rotation, he needed to slow down. Positioning of Dwayne's transition was slightly different, and that affected the synchronization of transition. Synchronization of transition is what we're looking for. Transition happening at the same time from the leader and the chaser. And because of that mistake of Dwayne, Connor was not able to do that synchronized transition, and we were not able to punish him for that because it was not mistake of the chaser, but it was caused by the leader. However, Connor was having smaller angle at outer zone 4. He was not having the amount of proximity of Dwayne. Mistake on that transition. However, we just said it was partially mistake from the leader, that it was possible to solve that slightly better. Based on that, we are now having 7+ for Connor's chase and 9- for Dwayne's lead. And that brings us to even score and one more time. So that's why we put it one more time. Second run, basically everything was coming to what I was saying during the explanation of that run. So that was the main thing, and that was hitting the wall on in second run of Dwayne, who hit the wall as a leader at outer zone 4, which caused big bubble or big correction of the angle. And that caused separation at outer zone 4 from Connor Shanahan. And we were not able to put that mistake on Connor because that was big mistake from the leader. And without good lead, there is no good chase. So that was it. One small or big mistake in these battles, and that was it. Like, all drivers were so tight. All battles were very tight in decision. So in many cases, mistake like that was sealing the deal, even though there was mistakes from the other driver in the first run, but also Dwayne's run in the first run was not perfect. There was also some small mistakes here and there. We are going for the last 2 battles, just with 2 drivers. And that's Piotr Więcek against Jack Shanahan, and there one more time. So in the first run, Piotr was leading as a higher qualifier. He had possibility to choose. He opted for leading first. When after the initiation, he had bubble between outer zone 1 and outer zone 2. Bubble means correction of the angle, and a little bit too much left foot braking to stay in outer zone 4. So when he was coming to outer zone 4, he was left foot braking to stay outside, to not got the deduction for the wrong line. However, it is affecting the fluidity, and we needed to act on that. And the last mistake, which I have in my notes, was that Piotr was able to be deeper in outer zone 7. On Jack's run, he was cutting the line on the initiation, and even though the leader was on correct line, so leader was fulfilling those guidelines correctly, and the chaser was cutting the line on the start of the scoring zone. He was gaining and losing proximity. That means that there was like no constant pressure. It was like getting into the proximity, getting out of it, getting into the proximity, getting out of it. So it was not constant pressure from Jack on Piotr. Then they switched and they went for their second run. Jack was a little bit wider on the guidelines, and he can be deeper also at outer zone 7. However, otherwise there were like very tiny mistakes, almost none of them. So it was really good run, just those two things. And Piotr was providing constant pressure. It was not on and off. It was like all the time there, really close to the leader. And the only mistake which we are having in my notes is that the second transition was possibly it could have been done a little bit better. It can be a little bit more synchronized, but it is very small, tiny mistake. We're coming to there is no good chase without good lead, and it was very important to understand that that's very close proximity was provided a lot by Jack having that good run. However, there were also those two mistakes still there, so he lost points on this. So if we went through our notes, through our scores, we find out it just needs to be one more time. It would be the fairest thing in that moment to do. So that's why we went with it. And I also explained during the live stream that one driver had really good lead, one driver was having really good chase, and then there was mistakes on the lead and mistakes on the chase from both drivers on their other run. Then it was a great one. So that's why we went for one more time. And what one more time they provided, it was show to watch. We really enjoyed what those drivers provided to us. It was really amazing. And we are coming to a situation where one lead run is better than the other and one chase run is better than the other. If we are looking on the mistakes happening during those two runs, Piotr in his lead was a little bit wider on the guidelines. However, Chaser was almost side by side. He was really in front. There is possibility that the line of the leader can be affected, that the Chaser is sticking the nose too much in front, and the leader wants to avoid the collision, so he slides a little bit wider. But it was really like not a huge mistake, very small, tiny one. We had angle correction from Piotr between the guidelines and outer zone 1. As he was sliding, it looked that the car gripped a little bit in between those two sections, and there was correction in the angle. And the last mistake was that he was able to be slightly deeper in outer zone 7. However, he was still touching the green part. Green part means that this is the place of outer zone without any deduction. If you are interested to see how those zones are set up, you need to go to Driftmaster's website, find the briefing, and there's each zone marked where you're getting deductions for which part. Every time we are counting the rear wheel, the most rear wheel, and if there is a wall, we are also counting bumper to the wall. So if you're close to the wall with the bumper, then the bumper is what we are counting. If you are going with your bumper further from the wall, we are starting looking on the tires and where they are positioned. On Jack's chase, so first run of one more time, it was already set. The initiation was not perfect. He was a bit too much inside, or a bit too much forward on the start of the judging zone. Then he was having quite significant cuts at outer zone 4, or coming to outer zone 4 to gain the proximity or get the proximity back. And as in the first run, he was gaining and losing the proximity. It was not constant pressure, but it was like in and out. Almost all the time, it was not constant pressure. It was not like glued on the leader in front of him. In the outer zone 1, he was able to provide even bigger angle than leader, and that was pretty badass. Just note, it is not giving a way higher score, but it is nice wow effect. And he was really having great transitions and timing, and proximity during those transitions was really good. So that is definitely getting some score from. Then they switched, and Jack on his lead was having tiny bit longer deceleration in his lead, and small bubble between outer zone 2 and outer zone 3. It was very possibly connected. However, otherwise the run was really good. However, Piotr provided really good chase. He provided even possibly better chase than before, and he was able to leave that space which we were asking for during the briefing, just on the initiation. He was able to have his front bumper on the line with rear bumper of the leader, and anyway still having the proximity, which in my eyes was really showing the skills of the driver in this situation. He was slightly coming to outer zone 4. So there were small deductions even on those almost perfect runs. And we got into the situation where we would definitely like to call one more time again. However, the rules are not allowing us to. And we needed to look into everything, because if we would put one more time, it would go based on the qualification score. And that is something what we are trying to avoid. We rather look also into the first run if there were like something what was giving the weights on the other side. That's why it took us so long. That's why you can see during the live stream that my head is down and I'm looking into something, and I'm quite stressed about that situation, because we were looking through all of the notes. We were looking through Wally system. We were looking into every detail which would be possible to decide, because again we've been put into a situation which is calling for one more time, but we were not able to. And the result is that if I just counted all mistakes, then for me it was half a point difference for Piotr Więcek, and for the other guys it was the opposite way. It was a little bit more for Jack Shanahan. And even on the live stream I said I understand them, because it was so close battle that it was able to go anyway. Anyway, at that moment it was so close that it is getting to part what the judge is preferring, what style he is preferring. Those tiny hairs which are splitting the scores, that's what we've been picking, and that's what we did. We are also limited with time. We were not able to have 10 minutes for finding the resolution of that battle. We were having very limited time, because Drift Masters is amazing show, and if we will take too long for putting our decision in, then it would start to get boring, and people would not like that. That's what is the essential point of Drift Masters, is how likable it is to watch, how quick it is, how that working machine, like how every person in that working machine is trying his best or her best to make that machine fast and exciting. And that is making a lot of pressure on us to put the decision as fast as we can, but also as best as we can. And we tried our best. And to be honest, again, I would say it again and again, on that battle, it was, I would say, personal choice of driving style, definitely not personal choice of the driver, because for us, it does not matter who is the driver. We are just having starting number. We don't care who is the driver. It is just the car, just the starting number, and then we are judging. So it is more about what the driver was able to provide as a skill set, as a driving, as less mistakes as possible. That is what is deciding. Is definitely not that we would prefer one or the other driver, because that would not make any sense, to be honest. So that was the decision for Piotr Viek and Jack Shanahan. I hope that it brings clarity, that you now understand better why we judge how we judged, and definitely will like to see you all in Poland, and we will have amazing race there. So thank you very much. If you watched till this moment, thank you, and see you on the next race. Bye.